So we know from the previous video what a difference is, and now we're going to have a look at the difference of two squares. So a difference of two squares is just when I've got something that's written down like this. Say when I've got something squared minus something else squared. So it's a difference. It's called a difference of two squares. It is a difference because I'm subtracting, and it's a difference of two squares because the two things that I'm subtracting are two squares. Now, that's all a difference of two squares are. We want to have a look at when you're factorizing a difference of two squares. So let's say I have something like this. Let's say I have x squared minus y squared, and I want to factorize that. So at the moment it's a difference. Factorizing means writing as a product. I'm going to show you how to do that. The first thing that I want you to do is I want you to put, just to make it a little bit easier, I want you to put these things in brackets. So whatever the first thing is squared, put that in brackets, and whatever the second thing is squared, put that in brackets. And now all I have to do is I'm just going to write, it's just going to be like this. It's just going to be the first thing minus the second thing multiplied by the first thing plus the second thing. So the first thing was x, the second thing was y in this case. So in general, if you want to factorize the difference of two squares, if I've got something like this, if I've got the first thing, I'm just going to write it as first. So the first squared minus the second squared. And it makes it a little bit easier when you do harder ones if you do put it in brackets like that. So in general, if I have the difference of two squares, so I've got the first one squared minus the second one squared, in order to factorize that, it's always going to be like this. It's always going to be the first, whatever the first is, so whatever the thing in brackets here is, minus the second, how do you spell second? Second, multiplied by the first plus the second. So, and the first is whatever's the first thing you have in brackets here, and the second is whatever the second thing you have in brackets here. So let's look at a few other examples. So say if I had this one, say if I had a squared minus b squared. So I can see it is the difference of two squares because it is something squared minus something else squared. I'm just going to put these in brackets here, so it's going to be like that. So the first thing squared is a, and the second thing squared is b. So in order to factorize that, it's just going to be the first, which is a, just follow this, minus the second, which is b, multiplied by the first, which is a, plus the second, which is b. And I've factorized this. I've taken this difference, which happens to be the difference of two squares, and I've written it as a product. So let's have a look at a slightly harder one. So let's say we had let me see, 25x squared minus, let's say, y squared. So 25x squared minus y squared. So the first thing that you'll notice is that this number, this here is slightly different. Okay, we want to write this as a square number first of all. So anytime you have one that's like this, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write this as a square number. You should notice that 25 is actually equal to 5 squared. So another way to write this is 5 squared x squared minus y squared, because 5 squared is 25. And now rather than having to write squared twice, I'm going to put the whole thing, I'm going to write it like this, 5x in brackets, all to be squared. And then I'm going to put this one in brackets, 2y squared. So now I have it written like this. I've got my first thing all to be in brackets, squared. So I've just got, if you compare this line to this line up here, I've just got something in brackets that I'm going to square. So the thing that's in brackets is 5x, and then I've got something else in brackets, so my second thing. So in order to factorize this then, I just go first minus second. So it's going to be 5x minus the second, so minus y, multiplied by, and then it's just going to be 5x plus y. So it was the first thing minus the second thing, first thing times the second thing. Let's have a look. Let me say we had 9a squared minus 16b squared. So again, it is a difference. It's not quite the difference of two squares yet, because I've got this number that I'm multiplying by. First of all, it's 9 times a squared, and it's 16 times b squared. But we should notice that 9 is actually the same as 3 squared, and 16 is 4 squared. So I can rewrite this. Instead of writing 9, I can write 3 squared. So now I've got 3 squared a squared minus, and I can write 4 squared b squared. And now I'm just going to put these things in brackets just so it looks like this up here. So I'm going to rewrite it as 3a in brackets, all to be squared. So 3a just means 3 multiplied by a, minus, and here I'm going to write 4b in brackets, all to be squared. So now the first is 3a and the second is 4b. So when I put it in brackets like this, it's just going to be first minus second. So 3a minus 4b, first minus second, multiplied by, and then it's going to be 3a plus 4b. So first minus second multiplied by first plus second. Okay, let's have a look at a, I don't think it's too hard, but a little bit of a harder one. So let's have it here, I just have to get it up. So say we want to factorize this. So we're going to factorize, and let's say it's x plus y all to be squared minus, let me see, let's just say there's a y squared. So it's minus y squared. So I've written this in brackets. So look, the first thing that's all to be squared is the x plus y bit, because I have that in brackets. So it's something squared minus, and then I've got the second thing in brackets minus something squared. So let's write the formula that we're going to use first. So it's first squared minus second squared. So it's first and second in brackets. That's going to be first minus second multiplied by first plus second. So the first thing here we've got is x plus y, because it's the first thing that's in brackets. So it's x plus y all to be squared. So I'm just going to rewrite this. I'm going to factorize it, and anywhere I see first I'm going to write x plus y, and anywhere I see second I'm going to write y. So it's going to be x plus y, the first, minus the second. So it's x plus y minus the second, so minus y, multiplied by, and then it's first plus second. So multiplied by first, which is x plus y, plus the second, so plus y. And now once I've done that, I can see, well, here I've got a y minus y in this first bracket, so I can actually subtract them, and I could rewrite that as x multiplied by, and here I've got y plus y, so I could just add the two y, so I get x plus 2y. It doesn't always happen like that you can do that, but in this case it did. Okay, let's have a look at one more example. So let's say we had to factorize this. So we want to factorize, and let's say it's 5x plus 6y all to be squared. So again, it's written in brackets, minus, and then it's x plus y all to be squared. So again, it is the first thing all to be squared, because here's the first, it's 5x plus 6y. It's written in brackets like it is up here. So the first is 5x plus 6y, and the second is x plus y. So in order to factorize that, I'm going to write it as a product. It's going to be first minus second. So the first is 5x plus 6y minus the second. So we got to be careful here. The second is x plus y, so I'm going to take away that. So because I'm taking away all of it, it's going to be minus x. I'm just going to put, because I'm subtracting, I'm going to put it in brackets, because I want to go minus x and minus y. And then in my second bracket, it's going to be first, which is 5x plus 6y plus the second. So plus, and the second this time is x plus y. So plus, and I don't need to put it in brackets this time because I'm just adding x plus y. The only reason I needed to put it in brackets over here, the x plus y, the second part, was because I want to subtract the whole thing. It's minus x and minus y. So now, all I've done, it looks a little bit more confusing than up here, but it isn't really, because the first is just 5x plus 6y. The second is just x plus y. So anywhere I saw first up here, I wrote 5x plus 6y. And anywhere I see the second, I just write x plus y. Just be careful of that minus, because it's minus all of it. So minus x and minus y. And then I've got first plus second. So it's 5x plus 6y here, plus the second, so plus x plus y. There's a few things I can add up in here. I can tidy up, because I've got 5x minus x. That gives me 4x. And I've got 6y minus y, so that's plus 5y, and then in this bracket I've got 5x plus x, which is 6x, and 6y plus y, which is plus 7y. So I can tidy it up a little bit, and that's just the difference of two squares. So remember, a difference is when you're subtracting, and when you've got something that's something squared minus something else squared, that's called a difference of two squares.